nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. I think there's something in the water. If you wanna take a sip, but be careful what you wish for. The faint of heart can't handle it. Everybody wants a piece of someone else's prize, but it ain't free, it don't come cheap. Only the strongest will survive. You ain't seen nobody like this.
Good evening and welcome to San Antonio Soccer Roundtable, the high school edition. Joining me tonight is Rafa. And what kind of kit is that? I thought we're a black kit.
It's an Alamo Madrid kit.
So I know it's the high school show, but we have to start out with this. Your thoughts on the kit, the black on black, I believe is what they're calling it here. And then the infamous, back with the numbers and name, also in black. I'm pretty sure if you follow me, you know my views on it. But your thoughts?
I guess we're gonna have to play Back in Black from AC/DC when we come out.
That's what they should have played with in their video coming out. But that's through their hair. I think the big issues with the kit number, for me, it's a little bit plain. There's no, it's just a plain shirt. But for Mike Watts, calling games, or whoever's calling the games, good luck trying to read the names. The numbers, I think, are probably big enough, and it depends on. To me, I think it's going to depend on how reflective they are. Under light. But just looking at it here, and the picture that we have is from the SAFC shop through what is it? Soccer
Factory
for that here. Compared to this one here, where the Viva kit, nice and clean. Yes, to me it's a little plain, and in the front, but on the back, you can clearly read the names and numbers. So, can't so much on the on the kit here. So it was going to be hard going from the checkers. I just think for this one here, I like the idea. I just to me, if you had outlined outlined it in white, and especially if you put the Puma in there with us being Los Gatos Blancos, made it a white Puma, or just outlined the black writing with white, or silver if you wanted to go, because there is a touch of silver with the badge.
Yeah,
have that silver go around the names, that would have highlighted it a little bit better. But hindsight's 2020. There is some discussion. Can SAFC play in these?
it's kind of like this. You see how that Puma?
Yeah, something like that where it sticks out.
Yeah,
but then that's not black on black. So, but let's get to what we came here for.
Well, here, first of all, I got some breaking news, and this is actually coming from the Valley, and this pertains to Southwest's kryptonite, which is Pablo Torre from Valley View. He's just announced that he's foregoing his senior season at Valley View. He played half of the district play, and he's now left the team.
Where's he going? College or pro?
They did not mention we have to probably contact Edson about if he's gonna, if maybe offered something, maybe RGV, could be a possibility because it's just saying that he's cutting his season short to pursue other options. And I'm wondering if let's say RGVFC's may probably decide to open the checkbook and sign him up.
Well, RGV did sign Ollie Wright today, and among others, but for that here, what was his name?
Pablo Torre. Yeah, he was the leading scorer for the Valley. He was their top player for Valley View. He was the one that scored those 5 goals on Southwest on that playoff game last year, and he was kind of their little kryptonite. And so, yeah, this is just kind of breaking that he's cutting his season short. So I'm sure how Southwest is going to be happy with that because that's a big loss. That's a big loss for Valley View because I saw them play last year. He was the only player that would generate any offense for them. So there's some. I think the soccer gods might be.
How big a loss is that for Valley View though?
It's a big loss because the whole offense runs through him. You know, he's. I remember watching him play against Porter. He basically saved him. Porter I thought it was a better team, but he's very fast. He's very lanky and just savvy as far as receiving the ball, and he just put the ball in the net. That's just how good of a player he is. I know that I spoke to somebody about him, and they tried double teaming him, and they just still couldn't stop him. So I'm wondering if he's going to cut his season short. If RGVFC maybe already discussing, or like I said, maybe it could be a Liga MX team that maybe reached out to him too as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what turns out of that. So I'm sure there are gonna be some happy teams about that in the playoff in 5A. So just little breaking news on that.
So that is big news. So tonight we did plan on doing the Rafa, Power 15 for both the boys and girls again, and then going over the TAPPS playoff bracket. Unfortunately, TAPPS has not updated their playoff bracket, and I don't want to make assumptions on which teams are in at what seed along those lines here. Just with the TAPPS TAPPS standings, they're on par with the UIL ones, but it's not something that I can say 100% accuracy saying, hey, Team A is playing Team B to be able to go through for that here. So for that here, Matt with a PSG or Q
or K. I don't think he's going to PSG.
Barcelona, come on.
These guys here.
Go to Newcastle, my friend. You get playing time. So let's get started with the brackets here. As always, we start with the ladies. Let me make sure I got it set up here. So before we get started, there has been some pretty major changes, especially this late in the season, I think.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest was number 4 from 2 weeks ago, Antonian. The Lady Apaches unfortunately dropped all the way out. Madison and Davenport. Your thoughts, I guess especially from Antonian dropping, basically from the top half or top third of the bracket to completely out of the bracket.
Yeah, just some real tough losses for them, and some consecutive losses. That's why they dropped out. Just the inconsistency there. Same thing. Madison had looking back at the 4 games since the last, rankings. They had hit some rough spots. Same thing with Davenport. Even though Davenport did get a win last night, so like I said, they're within range, as you can say, to possibly get back in. Depending on the season, how things go here further out. So, and then there was there was some of the top teams, had some ties. So they may have got knocked down a bit, or Miami State remained the same. There was one time I was a little surprised that I expected them to win, but they ended up getting tied. So that knocked them just a little bit, but not too much. So, we'll discuss about that once we show the rankings.
So, any outside of the drops here, let's before we get to the rankings here.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you this week here? I know yesterday you were in the sun, before it got chilly here in San Antonio. So, where has Rafa been this past week?
Well, yeah, last night I was at Somerset Stadium for the boys District 27 4A game between the Lavernia Bears and the Somerset Bulldogs. So first time ever going to Somerset as far as their stadium. It's nice little stadium for them, and good turnout. A lot of Lavernia people were there, and it was a great game. Somerset struck early, but then Lavernia it was a wake up call for them, and they turned it up after that. And I was surprised and impressed by how good Lavernia was. And they took a 2-1 lead at the half, and then that second half, I think having the win in your back also kind of helped out a little bit. But they just turned it up another level, and they just blitzkrieg the Somerset defense, and the score could have been a lot higher. So they end up winning 6-1. One of the players, number 11, he's only a sophomore, had a hat trick. He could have had at least another 2-3 goals. He missed some over the bar or to the side, but he had on his third goal to get the hat trick. He had a beautiful header, from a corner kick. So be on the lookout for them, because I think I had a little talk with him and with the coach from Lavernia. Hopefully we'll have him next week on our show, and he's got a lot to say about his team. But just look out for them in the playoffs. I think they may surprise some teams. They're very young, a lot of sophomores and freshmen. I think we only had like 2 seniors on the squad. So this could be a team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with them for the next few years. And I think they may go toe to toe with Bernie. I think they have the talent, they have the speed, and they have a lot of endurance as well. And so look out for Lavernia. Hopefully, like I said, I know the coaches are looking to see if they can improve on making the playoffs, deeper in the playoffs. And another game I went the week before was that Reagan and Lee game, and that game, everybody was ready for that game, and
Reagan took it to him with the 4-0 win. Yeah,
Reagan really, like I said, the last 2 games I've seen them play, against Johnson and them, they really took it to them. They have a suffocating pressing offense. They just do not allow you to get you set up, play from the back, and get you up in the attack and so forth. And so they just took it to Lee, and Lee had a couple opportunities, but they were just out of sync. They just couldn't really get into a rhythm. A couple of mistakes. Some of the goals were a couple little miscues. But like I said, I think, like I said, Lee will bounce back from this. But Reagan, I think, is starting to become that team that, to be look out in the playoffs. And like I said, who's to say we could have both of them in the regional final and so forth. So like I said, it's still a long season, because like I said, Reagan still has got a couple tough ones going on. Still got to play Johnson. They still got to play Brandeis, and we'll see what happens there.
So starting out with the ladies, we talked about who's not in. So let's see who possibly replaced them and how it shakes out here. So starting out at number 15, a new team, Uvalde. The record's 10-2-1 so far on the year. Any thoughts on Uvalde? I know they're probably on the outer limits of what we cover, but when you look at the standings, they have been impressive and have been on quite a roll.
Yeah, they've been on a roll, and they're actually playing tonight. And I think they're favored to win tonight. And that's a team to kind of look out for 4A girls. We'll see how they'll do. Like I said, in the playoffs, once the playoffs starts in the next 3 weeks. So keep an eye on them. They're a good team, especially like I said, they should have no problem winning District 27 4A. I think they'll have. I think once they win this one, they should have it in the bag.
So moving to number 14 is San Antonio Christian, 15-5. They weren't rated. I think the reason why they jumped in is because they are the team that knocked out Antonian twice since the last rankings here for that here.
Yeah, they've actually gone on to like a win streak at the expense of Antonian, so they were able to crack into the top 15. Keep an eye on them in the playoffs. Like I said, we'll figure out, hopefully once TAPPS decides to put their brackets up, who they're going to face. And like I said, hopefully they can make a deep run and hopefully bring a championship, So, don't sleep on them, and we'll see what they have coming up, for them for the playoffs.
Number 13, Bernie. Last 2 weeks ago, they were 14th. So 10, 3, and 4. So they dropped one spot. And we'll talk about who grabbed their spot here in a minute. But your thoughts on the Greyhounds?
I know they had some bumps on the road, but they're a little on a winning streak now. So that's why I have them at 13. Like I said, hopefully they can still continue. Like I said, they're looking to see that hopefully they can still contend for that district championship. I think Wimberley was on top of the standings, and I think they're going to meet with them pretty soon. I think they'll start round 2 of their district play. I think either this Friday or next week. So don't sleep on them. Like I said, they were one of the favorites last year. I still think they're one of the favorites. I think probably this right now is the best time to start getting hot, and they're starting to show that right now.
Next up at the Jefferson Mustangs. They were not ranked. They're 13-4 on the season, coming in at 12. So they come in and jump ahead of Bernie. So your thoughts on on Jefferson soccer?
Well, Jefferson, like I said, they've been consistent. They're in first place. They had a big win over Edison to take basically it was the top 2 teams in that district. So they won that game. So they're certainly comfortably right now in first place. I think they meet again at the end of the season. So who's to say, Edison could come back and try to sneak on them and try to get a split of the district title. But I think Jefferson's looking to kind of a little redemption because they were in the same position last year. They took care of business in district, but they got knocked off in the first round. So they're hoping to see if they can get into this, win the playoff game and go into the second and possibly even the third round as well.
So moving on up, we're gonna go to Taft, the Lady Raiders. So far 10, 3, and 4 on the year. They were 15th last on the Power 15 here, but they have moved up. And I want to say they had a tie, or they played a team very competitive.
They had a tie with Harlan last night, which kudos to Harlan because they're in the 4th place spot in their district for 29 6A. Taft is within striking distance of with Brennan and O'Connor. It's basically the same situation from last year. It came down to the last few games, but that's a little minor setback getting that tie with Harlan. It's good for Harlan because they get points to keep that 4th place spot. In the playoff run, which I think right now, if the playoffs would start today, they would play my alma mater, but I actually would favor Harlan over them. I think Harlan's a little bit battle tested. So, but
we thought that last year on the boys' side, and it didn't quite work out as well.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. But I think that this will be a little bit different with the girls' side. But Taft, like I said, I think Taft. They could go do some damage also in the playoffs too. So don't sleep on them. Even though they had that tie, they still got some big games coming up with Brennan and O'Connor, and we'll see what the outcome comes for the district title.
Yeah. So looking at the mysanantonio.com, right now, District 29 6A, Brennan 14 1-2, 9-0-1 in District. O'Connor 9-0-2, so 2 ties. Played one more match, but a tie. Third would be Taft at 8-1-2 for that here. And then the fourth that you're talking about, I think when we did the standings last time here, it was kind of a 3-team race.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of settled down to where it is going to be between Harlan and Stevens. Harlan's at 5-4-2. Stevens is at 5-5-1. So that tie does make a big difference because that gives them the tiebreaker as we speak right now over Stevens.
Yeah, and especially also getting points on one of the top 3 teams. If you can steal like a point, it's going to help you, because normally if that was a loss, like I said, Stevens would, kind of be within striking distance of them. So it was a good result for Harlan last night.
So moving on up, number 10. So cracking the top 10 is Southwest. 14-3-1. They were your 12th seed last, 12th in the last power poll here. Your thoughts on Southwest?
Yeah, Southwest. I think they took care of business at Medina Valley. They're on a big winning streak. I just don't. Like I said, I don't see anyone beating them in their district play. We'll see what they do in the playoffs. That's going to be another different story there. See, but I think I have confidence in them. I think they can do some good things coming into the playoffs.
And want to bring in Coach Cano. I'm sure you probably heard me disrespecting TAPPS there a little bit, saying, hey, why can't they get their brackets out? And so he's coming to shake us down here a little bit. How are you doing, Coach Cano? Well, Coach Cano gets set up here. Lori Lee, one of the who has been on the show here before. One of the Harlan coaches said that Harlan has beaten Stevens twice. Still, it's not set, but the points definitely do matter here. So, I do remember that was one of the games that we were talking about. 2 weeks ago when we're doing this, or last week?
Yeah, that's a good thing. Though Harlan has a tiebreaker, but the points do matter. So, I mean, if Stevens knocks off one of the top 3 teams, if it's that leapfrog you from a playoff spot and so forth. So, like I said, it's going to come down to who has the points to get to that 4th spot.
Gentlemen, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I am back in black. All right, sorry about that. So I could, I don't know what was going on there. I could hear the echo, but I couldn't pick you guys up there. So Rafa or Harry, right off the bat, I need to know how many times has Rafa already mentioned his alma mater? I'm over under 2, maybe. I'd say 2.
For this episode, yes.
Sorry, guys. Hey, thank you for allowing me to join you guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I have a bone to pick with you.
All right,
we were going to go over the TAPPS playoff brackets. Obviously, that wasn't published by TAPPS as of yet here. I know you're coaching a team, and I believe they play. I don't have it up here. Thursday. Thursday night. If you want to kind of highlight what St. Mary's Hall, who they're playing, where they're playing, and if it's close, how they can get tickets and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, well, if you want to watch us play, you can either go via Greyhound, drive, or take a flight over to Houston Hobby. We'll be out by.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we'll be making a trip out towards NASA. We'll be playing Houston Lutheran South Academy. They are the 3 seed out of District 5, which is the Greater Houston District, and we're the 4 seed out of our combined Austin/San Antonio district. So it's the 4 from District 3 versus the 3 from District 5. So that's a pretty strong, solid by district round matchup. And the winner of our match will then turn around and face in the area round on Saturday versus the number 1 seed out of our district, out of District 3, which is Austin St. Michael's, which They are the defending state finalist. They lost a year ago in the final.
Do you know what time that game would be at, or still to be determined?
Tomorrow's game is at 4. Saturday's game will be dependent upon the winner, and obviously because St. Michael's is hosting, that is still to be determined.
Well, reason why I ask is AJ will be up, or will be up in Leander for AJ's club game. So I was like, well,
yeah. Hoping for if we're lucky enough for it to be us, we're hoping for because of a lot of school activities going along with our student athletes, where we would potentially be requesting a Saturday evening game, probably maybe 7 p.m., something like that.
So I do have a question, and maybe this could go either to you, Rafa, or you, Coach. Why is the playoff schedule so compact? Like, it kicks off tomorrow. You have, in the bi-district round, and depending on which, there's quite a few buys in there. But then the area is on the 26th. Then March 1st is the regional. So by the time within a week, you're going to basically have played 3 rounds of the playoffs. And then, of course, the semifinals is March 5th, and then the finals March 8th. Why is it so compact? It just, number one, for player safety, but number two, especially if you're going from Houston to Austin to possibly back to Houston, that's a lot of travel in a short period of time. Where, is there a reason why they have to have it done by March, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's my response. Yeah. Yeah. I don't, this question gets posed every year. Number of factors. I don't know if there's a single reason, but maybe just a culmination of a lot of little things. I think for one, unlike UIL, you're dealing with schools that are still smaller numbers, right? On the TAPPS side, private school side. So one thing that gets mentioned quite a bit is, so you have the overlap period right now from winter sports, i.e. basketball and soccer, and then with all the spring sports, because it's a heavy spring season period in all of sports, UIL and TAPPS. So I don't know if it's also influenced by that in terms of trying to get through this as quickly as possible, because it comes right on the heels of basketball. Like the basketball state championships for TAPPS will happen, and then it's soccer right after that. And I think there's something to be said that in many cases they're trying to get as many athletes as possible to their other respective sports.
Right.
So number of factors. I don't know if it's also, some would also argue that it's also influenced by the club, the club scene, as far as it's starting to pick back up in terms of
yes,
for
that is
example,
the other thing too.
Yeah,
well, yes.
Yeah, one example is you're going to have here in TAPPS you're in the TAPPS state playoffs that kick off obviously tomorrow. So tomorrow's the opening round by district round. Saturday you have the area round. And you have an ECNL national level ECNL showcase that's happening in Houston Saturday. I believe it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So that's going to play a factor. Some teams are going to feel that, and so I think it's a number of factors. That question gets from where I fully agree with you is from the player safety perspective.
Correct. Player safety and player school, because there's the safety aspect of playing it, and I know at that age you could feel like you can play every day, that you have that mentality, but it's also taken away from the academic side as well. Especially at the TAPPS schools here, academics is, as we were discussing last week, that's, and even in the public schools, it's as important, if not more important, along those lines. So and I know it's a short period of time, but
yeah, I mean, it's paramount. You're right. I mean, from the academic perspective, it's paramount. And, I don't think all the cliches need to be entered at this point in terms of, hey, student comes before athlete. We all clearly, as coaches, we understand that. We get that and we reinforce that. But I think you're right. Just from the player safety perspective, you're going to have teams that you're going to go from the start of your playoffs, the bi-district round, to knowing who your regional champion is in the span of 5 days, basically. So That's a heavy load.
I wonder, and I know they already have the season earlier as it is. I wonder if you could maybe move the season, start of the season earlier a couple of weeks, so where yeah, you may be missing some players if they're playing a fall sport here, but that way during the winter when the results when the results actually matter, and I'm not saying that the early season games don't matter because they do,
Right.
but if you're in a playoff plan for a state championship, to be able to have to battle against club teams, the ENCL, and other things here, it makes it difficult for you guys, and I think that's why you see some upsets when it comes to playoffs compared to how
No
the
doubt.
season is played.
Yeah, no doubt. And the thing you run into with TAPPS too is they have, a lot of people don't know this, is they have a fall soccer season. So
Yep.
for your smaller schools, so basically what would be the equivalent in UIL of below 4A, your 3A, 2A, and your 6-man 1A, right? Where the schools that essentially don't have football, they play in the fall soccer season. So that prevents TAPPS from being able to start earlier, and then they also try to stagger it with basketball as well. So because what they don't want are the seasons to be exact and the championships to be exact between soccer and basketball. So number of factors. I wish there was a single one that was great, but trust me, when I first entered into the TAPPS world, and I think it was 2017, I think it was, we were all asking the same questions.
Rafa, your questions that you have for Coach?
Well, I think it goes back to even with the UIL. They play. I remember playing on a Tuesday night, and then we had to turn around and play on a Friday night for an area playoff game. And honestly, to me, I think what the UIL needs to change is have one playoff game every weekend to get having a recovery time for the players, and especially with some of the teams, especially out west, when they have to really. I know, like what Coach came out from El Paso. They play within that first round, but that second round game, you got to go to Midland, Odessa, or Amarillo, or maybe even Dallas, and to go that within that time frame, it'll take a toll on your body. So that's maybe something they need to look at. They have, like I said, during the regional final tournament. That's I think during the regional, actually from the state tournament. There's no games prior to that until this past year, which there was a state semifinal game played on a Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. So I think what they need to do is it really kind of expand out the playoffs, make it once Friday, Saturdays. That way, it allows teams to better prepare, but also to recover from injuries and so forth. And I think there's plenty of dates to extend. We can extend the state, WIL state championship an extra week or two. It's not going to hurt the season. It's just going to prolong it. It's even better, especially, some teams have to miss out games because of the crazy weather that we have during January, February, which hopefully maybe the UIL kind of consider maybe moving, like I said, the start of the season to maybe February instead, just to kind of weather the storm from the weather, early on in January. So I think that's something they needs to look at, and hopefully they'll maybe consider it in the future.
Yeah, and the UIL has looked at that before, and they've showed that they're willing to adjust. Obviously, last year was a very different year in terms of COVID, but I mean, last year was the earliest the season had ever started. I think it was December 29th, if I'm not mistaken. So when I was still coaching in the UIL, and I mean, it was pretty. I think there's a lot of coaches, as hard as last year was, and as difficult as last year was, this year feels like it's been more difficult as we try to make our way back into the routine, I guess. So, yeah, there's a lot of things.
Is it just due to the schedule congestion, still dealing with some of the COVID stuff? What makes this year a little bit harder compared, to the last couple of years, as an example? I think it can also vary from coach to coach in terms of their situation, right? But from my perspective, I think it was. You knew exactly your guidelines and your rails, and no locker rooms, and you weren't going to have as many players aside from the occasional injury and stuff like that, but there was a lot less going on in terms of options for our student athletes, and then on top of
whether it be, vacations and other, all those other little things that were the norm, obviously, before. And during that, at its peak with COVID, there was just a lot of restrictions. There was a lot more limitations in terms of what just what teams could do, what coaches could do, what players could do collectively and individually. So it just made the parameters, I guess, were a little different, more established, and easier. As hard as they were, don't get me wrong, but a little bit easier to manage. Now, as we kind of try to go back to
Reality.
The reality, the routine, it's been a little different. But yeah, I think it's, like I said, you poll 100 coaches, I'm sure you're going to get all kinds of different answers. But yeah, I think for me personally, I think that's been my take on it. From UIL's perspective, in terms of what Rafa was talking about, I think they're going to look at the schedule the way it is in terms of start and end time frame, no matter what. I don't think they're going to expand too much from that. But what I think districts need to try to do, and where I think UIL giving those districts the support, is to maybe get a little bit more creative with how they schedule district play, right? Not everything has to be a home and home per se. And in some of the bigger districts here, some of the 6A districts here, for example, Northside, NEISD, there is really no home and home series, right? They're playing at your Comalanders, they're playing at your Blossoms, they're playing at Ferris, they're playing, right? They're playing at Gus. So I don't know. Does that mean maybe a play one round for seeding, play a sort of
like a conference tournament,
and then does that allow the playoffs to then expand into what Rafa's talking about? So that would have to, and it's going to vary because districts are going to be different sizes, and what might work for 6A may not work for 5A or for 4A. Because the districts are definitely smaller there. Yeah.
Because I think that was the thing that stood out to me. Like, I live near Stevens. There's not a lot of dual sport athletes at the 6A level, but yet you go out to Hondo, their best player, on the girls' side, their best player, what I think came from basketball, right? Came from a basketball game, showed up at halftime, and I think had a hat trick or pretty close to a hat trick, and hit the crossbar 2 or 3 times, and just you could see the level of talent that she had just was unmatched, compared to the rest of the kids on the field. And it's that, to me, is kind of the interesting dynamic where I come from, a smaller school where you played football, you wrestled or played basketball in the winter time. And then, unfortunately, my family owns a ranch. So springtime was, helping out the family ranch as opposed to playing baseball or track. So,
and you were at, what was it again? Was it Palmer Ridge or what was it?
No, I was in the western slope of Colorado. Our entire school had 200 kids in it for high school.
Okay.
So, when my grades were not well and I didn't play football, the sophomore year, and the football coach, hey, why aren't you playing football? Well, my grades weren't good. He's like, well, we'll get your grades up. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, that was all the motivation you needed, right? So yeah. I don't know why I was thinking you went to one of the schools up in Monument, just outside of the Springs, there, outside of the Air Force Academy, where I was at. So, gotcha.
Yeah, no, but on the other side there. Do you want to hang around for the finish of Rafa's rankings and heckle him on them, or did you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, aside from his great taste in jerseys, I'd love to heckle him for sure.
So, since you brought up the jersey, you a fan or not a fan of SAFC's black on black jersey?
I don't. I mean, I applaud the idea. I mean, the concept. I don't know. Maybe the picture doesn't do it justice. Maybe when you see it, I don't know. Maybe after you see it under the lights of Toyota Fields for a little bit, maybe it doesn't look as bad. Grows on you, and you got to remember too, playing in South Texas in the middle of the summer, you've seen what those guys' jerseys look like halfway through the match. So I don't know. Maybe all that sweat drenched will provide a nice reflection. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows?
A lot of sweat stains on there.
That was to me. Who wants to wear a black jersey in July in San Antonio?
Now they are slated to play a lot more late game, like late night, the 8:30
8
games,
o'clock,
aren't
yes.
they? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
But still, it's
maybe that was
it,
maybe that was a factor. I guess I don't know.
and I can tell you this: if I'm a let's say Phoenix Rising, and I'm saying, hey, can we play our can you play in the black kit while they play in their their away kit and for the hair. I could see that happening.
I really
RGV could possibly be doing that because there is a 6 o'clock game early in the year, early in March, a 6 p.m. game. So and depending on
humidity, unless the humidity's down there. By that time.
I don't know. I'm really digging their what do we call it? Tablecloth, checkerboard, Croatia, concept.
The checkered kit, yeah.
I mean, I wanted them to just kind of change
it up, that identity.
But keep that. I really dug that. I really dig that. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
honestly, I thought they were going to go to more because AC Milan has Puma. I thought they were going to go that route. Some of their, I think their their third jersey is kind of like all black. It's similar to that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on. Number 10 was Southwest. Did we touched base on Southwest, right? I believe we did. Number 9, Alamo Heights. They were ranked 9th on your last power rankings, 11, 2, and 3.
They had a good week, but they did have a tie yesterday. Although I know a game that me and Coach Cano went actually early in the year when they played Buda Johnson. That was a heck of a game because there were some nice goals scored, especially on the Johnson side. But they went up there to Buda and they got a tie there, so it keeps them in the close into the second, third seed. I don't think anyone's going to catch up to Dripping Springs, to be honest. So I think you want to have that second seed to hopefully host a playoff game in the first round.
At number 8, Birdie Champion. They were 11th on the last ranking, 10, 2, and 2 on the year for that here.
Yeah, the Birdies bounced back. Like I said, after a couple of tough losses to Alamo Heights and to Dripping Springs, so they're bouncing back, and I think they're going to match up with them. I think with Dripping Springs pretty soon. I'm sure Birdie Champion is looking for a little revenge, but I just don't see them knocking off Dripping Springs. I think Dripping Springs, like I said, they're at a whole nother level. But like I said, I think it's going to, for coming down to second and third, it's going to come down between either Bernie and Alamo Heights when they meet again.
At number 7, the Johnson Jaguars, 12, 2, and 2. They dropped one, from 6 to 7. Any reason for the thoughts, on why they dropped one this year?
They had a couple ties, a little drop off, but not too much. I know they had that big win. I know me and Coach Kano saw them play with that big win over Reagan, but they had a little setback with a tie. But like I said, they're still in the mix, for that district title. They're winning range with Clark and with Reagan. So it's, like I said, it's going to come down to, we'll see what that second round game between Johnson and Reagan, see what determines who gets that second seed or whoever gets that first place spot.
And number 6 is Reagan, 13, 2, and 2. They were 7th. So, you flopped Reagan and Johnson for this week here. And I think if we go back to the history, they keep flipping back and forth in the standings. So
yeah, so they got a little winning streak going on ever since that loss. So they're back at it. They got a big game coming up on Monday versus Clark. So that could determine the district title or control of the district, the top seed. So like I said, so if you have an opportunity, check that game out. I think it's going to be Monday at 7. So like I said, if Reagan can, knock off Clark, so they can take over first place for 20. I'm trying to get my number, like 28.
28. Did that get changed from? It ended up on a Monday.
Yeah, it's on a Monday.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, that should be a dynamite matchup.
Speaking of Clark, you have them at number 5, which is where they were last week as well. 14, 2, and 2.
Yeah, they had a tie last night. they're still in first place in that district. Like I said, it's kind of the same situation like with 29-6A, 28-6A. You have 3 teams battling out for that district title. And like I said, it's going to come down who wins those head-to-head contests. And like I said, Clark's been kind of the surprise this year. I think nobody expected him to be on the top spot. Everybody thought maybe Reagan would bounce, still kind of reign supreme in that district. But Clark's doing an excellent job. They're playing well. So we'll see on Monday how because there's another clash of the Titans here. See how that result turns out.
Yeah, so on the standings, Clark's 8-0-2 in district, Reagan 7-1-2, and Johnson 6-1-3. So it's about as close as you can be, for that here. So and then Brandeis still 4-3-2, and Madison 4-3-3, and Lee at 4-4-2. So you still got 6 teams that's battling out for those 4 slots. I think Johnson, Reagan, and Clark, as you mentioned, are pretty well locked in. But the order of finish, and then of course the race for the 6th spot in 28-6A is still as muddied as it was the last time we spoke.
Yeah, that 4th spot between Madison, Lee, and Brandeis is going to come down to who wins head to head. But right now, the Brandeis is kind of peaking at the right time to get that 4th spot. So
when Brandeis plays Johnson,
so that's
Churchill, and then March 4th, Reagan and Brandeis would be a big one as well. So
so these next 2 weeks are going to really help shape the district race the rest of the way. That's what it's looking like.
Then number 4, who got the Rafa bump, because Rafa had misinformation as we were talking with Search John Paul II. They did become the first team in the area to get the 20 wins, 20-2. They made the jump from number 8 up. They will not have to play in the bye district round. I'm pretty sure they have a bye, if memory serves me right, for them here. And then, of course, they'd be playing most likely Saturday along those lines here.
Like I said, they did go undefeated in district play. Like they mentioned last one, we had Coach O'Gorman and a couple of his players on the show. So they were to get that last win, and they're going to be the favorites going into the playoffs. And like the girls said, they're looking for a little revenge, from that loss they had in the final. And I think they're going to get that redemption and bring that title back to the area.
Yeah, they're the real deal. Having played them this year.
Yeah, you played them early. I was going to ask you about that.
Now, had we been playing a 60-minute game instead of an 80-minute game, we would have done great with them. But it was 80 minutes that day, so now you should fully expect to see them. In I know Coach O'Gorman isn't going to say it's all set for them, but they should definitely be expecting to play in Round Rock in the final.
Moving on to the top 3. Number 3 is the same as last one here. O'Connor 15-1-2.
Yeah, O'Connor's been, like I said, they've been head to head with us, in their district race. Like I said, with Taft and also with Brennan, and I know they're going to have a matchup pretty soon, and that could, like I said, determine the district championship. I think the last time they faced each other, they had a tie. So whoever wins that game is going to probably end up winning the district title, getting that number 1 seed, and play the 4th team out from the Laredo area.
So that would be March 5th. O'Connor, Brennan, according to my essay, a 12 o'clock kickoff at Ferris for that here. So, and which would be the number 2 team, Brennan 14-1-2. The 2 team, and as we discussed earlier with Harlan here, unfortunately, 29-6A, with Brennan and O'Connor's kind of a 2-horse on the 3-horse race here with Taft. But when you're looking at the overall records, Brennan and O'Connor only have 1 loss on the season, altogether, where Taft does have the 3 losses and 4 ties. So looking at overall record here, Obviously, Brennan O'Connor seemed to be a shade better than Taft at this point.
Yeah, like I said, that Brennan's been very consistent this year. Like I said, I honestly think they're going to probably make it again to the regional tournament. We can see both O'Connor and Brennan representing San Antonio. Taft may also have an opportunity there, but like I said, Taft may have to play Brennan or O'Connor in a third round game. So like I said, we're going to have these two teams, and they're at Blossom in early April, representing our town and going up against. Who's to say? Maybe we could have a Brennan, Clark, and Reagan, and all those four, and Connor four in the regional tournament. Hopefully, they can knock off those Austin teams. So.
Because you mentioned on the boys' side that Harlan has the easier side because they play the Valley teams, and especially with the news that you mentioned at the start here, that especially with Valley losing its one of its better players. I'm assuming the same playoff format would be for Northside as well, where they're going to avoid the Austin teams early. Now, of course, as you get deeper in the playoffs, you're going to have to face them. So do you see that as an advantage compared to, 28 6A, where they're going to be facing Austin teams much earlier, and it may, it may take out some of the powerhouses where, in the NISD side here, on 29 6A, do they have an easier path? I know you mentioned, a few times that Harlan probably has the easier path for San Antonio schools. Can that same thing be said for Brennan and O'Connor?
I think so, because I checked out some of the district records from the Valley. Like I said, that first round that's going to be against the Laredo schools, and I just don't see any of the Laredo schools beating any of the Northside teams. And then second round, they should take care of business as well. Third round, like I said, we may have a Taft play against O'Connor or Brennan, depending on what the seeding, and so we could have three of those two teams, into that regional semifinal round. And then one of the thing is O'Connor and Brennan have played a lot tougher schedule this year. I think that's something they realized last year, that when they were knocked off by a couple Austin teams, they could say, hey, we got to play these teams just in the pre-district season, and just in case we do face them again, we know what we can match up with them and so forth. So, and I think on the other end, with playing against the Austin teams, like for example, like Smithson Valley and the Reagans and Johnsons, they're gonna be all beat up on each other. So there could be an advantage there too. Go to some of these tough battles or go to war. You do get drained out and you run into a team that's still kind of a little fresh. They can take advantage of that. So. Like I said, we're gonna. Like I said, we have a lot of teams. It's very deep here as far as the girls' soccer here. That they, we're gonna be represented by one or two teams.
The only thing that I'll counter on that is they may be playing, the tougher teams in Austin, but the travel to get to and from there is not quite as difficult. And I know Austin traffic sucks going up 35. But it's not the same as going down to Laredo or RGV along those lines here. So that might be a little bit of an equalizer on there. If you are happen to play away, happen to go down, because I know you've mentioned stories where playing in the Valley's a different game. It's a different crowd environment. It's different than playing in San Antonio.
Yeah. Most of the times they'll probably play in Austin Corpus. They'll meet halfway. Unless, like I said, some of these Valley teams may take a risk, flip home, and just to bring him down there to have him travel a long way to kind of make it uncomfortable for them to hopefully maybe catch him on a bad night and win a playoff game. So that also, like I said, that's a risk, that comes into play going to that round in the playoffs.
And something to keep in mind too, Rafa, you hit on it, is will they go back to the traditional regional tournament this year, right? Remember, they clearly broke away from that last year, right? So which kind of gave certain teams, there was an advantage for certain teams in terms of an ability to recover, right? So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how
And
that
I
plays
think
out this year.
this year, the original. I did look at the WAOI website. They are going to have the regional site. So I know for
Mhm.
6A it's going to be at Blossom, and 5A is going to be in Corpus at the multi-purpose.
Mhm.
And the 4A is going to be in McAllen. So
Okay.
I think they're going to move forward to have those regional sites.
Yeah. Okay.
The number one team played a thriller last night, 4-3. It's the number one Smithson Valley, 16-1. It's been pretty clearly your number one team all year for that here, and they got pushed last night. I was able to watch the match on the Smithson Valley YouTube channel here. I forget the exact address, but if you type in Smithson Valley, I think it's Rangers Network or something along those lines here. It was a back and forth game. I forget who they were playing, but they New Braunfels, yeah, the Unicorns. They pulled it out, and we'll talk about the boys' side here, in a couple of minutes here, but that was the place to be last night for soccer, in the San Antonio area there.
Yeah, Smithson Valley, I know me and Coach kind of went to see them back in the scrimmage against Dripping Springs. And like I said, they beat Dripping Springs, even though I know Dripping Springs was shorthanded. But you can tell by watching them play, they're a very complete team. And they communicate well, they touch well, they're coached well, too. Then, they have a great staff up there. And, they had a big win over Westlake in the like I said, in the pre-district season. So this team's battle tested, and I think they're going to do some damage. And and if they run into Lake Travis, Vandergrift, Ron Rock, or McNeil, whoever, they're going to be ready for the task. And I think, like I said, they can knock off anybody in Austin, and I could see them literally getting into the regional tournament come April.
So moving to the boys' side here, not as many changes. There was only one drop, which was 15th, the San Antonio Christian Lions. Your thoughts on the SA Christian Lions dropping out?
Yeah, they had not so good week. They've lost actually 4 in a row. Some games against Antonian, and also with a resurgent Central Catholic team that's finally woken up, and then don't sleep on them in the TAPPS playoffs, because they're peaking at. I mean, to peak at, and I know they took their bumps early on in the season, but they're peaking at the right time. And if there's any other TAPPS teams that are on their bracket, you probably do not want to play them. And like I said, they're very close getting to my top 15, and maybe if they go in a couple games deep, we may see them already crack the top 15. So, but like I said, yeah, rough week for San Antonio Christian, but we'll see what they do in the playoffs. Maybe hopefully they'll bounce back from it.
So starting out, replacing SA Christians is Brandeis 7-5-2. So your thoughts on Brandeis sneaking in this week into the bottom of the bracket?
Well, Brandeis is willing toe-to-toe with Lee and Reagan. Don't sleep on this team. They're a team that's will give you problems. And like I said, I think they're going to end up making the playoffs. I think they'll get that 4th spot. Maybe they even get the 3rd spot. I know they have a big game coming up with Johnson. If they can knock off Johnson and they can try to leapfrog them and get a bigger seeding for them. So Brandeis, like I said, had a rough start, but like I said, they're starting to playing really good soccer, and they still have upcoming games with Reagan and Lee. We'll see how that goes. If they can knock those, get wins from those 3 teams, who's to say they can get into the district lead. Yeah,
right now, Brandeis is actually already ahead, according to my essay, 6-1-2 in district, where Johnson's 7-2-1. So if the season ended today, based on the My San Antonio website here, Brandeis would be the 3rd seed and Johnson would be the 4th representative out of there. And then, of course, Churchill's looking in at 5-4-1, looking at district play.
So we'll have a matchup with Johnson and Smithson Valley possibly in that first round game.
Moving on, Davenport, 10-3-2. They were the 12th team last year, so there was a little bit of for here. Matt. should have a counter for how many times Rafa says not to sleep on a team. Matt could set the over under on that.
I guess they gotta have a little shot game for that when I say that.
No.
We need to be able to finish the show, my friend.
Yeah.
Save that for bracketology.
The Davenport, like I said, they've gone the last 3 games. Like I said, since our last poll, they've gone 1-1-1. So they dropped down a little, but I think they still have a good opportunity to get into the playoffs. Like I said, I think they can snatch that 4th seed, and hopefully maybe they get into the 3rd seed.
And then moving to Johnson, 11-5-1, number 10, as we talked about with Brandeis, still in the race for 28-6A here. For that here, your thoughts on the Johnson Jaguars?
Yeah, last 4 games, they've gone 1-1. We did see them play against Reagan, and Reagan just really took them out of that game. And even though they had that early lead, and they just really didn't recover from. They didn't able to muster anything up. But like I said, I think for them, like I said, I think they learn from that. Hopefully, they make the whatever changes they make to hopefully get it back when they do play them again. Kind of challenge Reagan and see if they can get that win, so you move up in the standings.
And I will say this: Johnson plays Brandeis at Gus Saturday at 2 p.m. according to My San Antonio. So that could help determine who gets that 3rd spot, and who's going to be settling for the 4th spot here. For that here, and then number 12, which was number 11 last year, Brackenridge, the Eagles, 11-3 on the season.
Yeah, Brackenridge, they've gone through the last 4 games. They've gone 3-1. They did have that loss with Lanier. Those were the top 2 teams in their district. So I think they'll end up probably getting that 2nd seed. Even though they'll play them again, I'm going to give the edge to Lanier. But like I said, Brackenridge should make the playoffs no problem and be the number 2 seed for the SAISD.
Number 11, O'Connor, 10-3-2, was 13 last week, moved up 2 spots to 11 this week. Yeah,
they had a pretty good week. Last 3 games, they're gone 2-0-1. They had a shootout last night with Marshall, which was a little surprising. They had a 5-5. It's at 10 goals in that game, and I think they were caught by surprise by Marshall, and hopefully they'll learn from that. Because it cost some points. Kind of stay within range with Harlan. They still have to play Harlan in round 2. So, like I said, O'Connor should, like I said, they should make the playoffs, and we'll see how the game goes when they play Harlan in a few weeks.
Moving on to number 10, Lanier. They were number 9 last week, 15-3, so they slid 1 slot here.
Yeah, Lanier, they actually, like I said, they had the big win over Brackenridge, but they ended up having a loss, which was surprising there. They lost to Burbank, and so that's why they're down a slot. But I think, because Lanier should win. Like I said, if they can take it, like I said, they still have to play Brackenridge, and but I think I'm going to give them the edge. I know I've heard they had some good things about their team, especially their forwards. They've been really dynamite. So they're more likely they're going to win. I think they're going to end up winning the district title for the SAIZ district. And I do see something on Harlan versus O'Connor on Friday, so that should be a good one there too.
Yeah, you're going to be out of town, unfortunately. Yeah. Number 9, Cornerstone. I think you said they finished the year, right? Because they're an independent squad, not in TAPPS or UIL. 13-2-3. They were seeded 7th the last time. At this time here, they're going to finish at 9 with no further games. Here's my understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, they just finished the season. They had a little slip. They did have a tie with I think it was St. Stephen's from Austin. They tied 0-0. So they had a good season. They beat some good quality teams. Like I said, looking over their schedule, they had some good quality wins, and they did go to that North Texas Elite Showcase. They did well over there. They had some close games as well. So we'll see if Cornerstone will ever get into TAPPS or any other division. We'll see about that. maybe, well, hopefully someday in the future.
Do you think that they could just play an independent schedule for a while, or do you think that they really need to see if they can get back into TAPPS or UIL along those lines?
I don't know. What do you think, Coach Cano? Could they get back in? Because I know they weren't in the good graces with TAPPS in the last few years.
Yeah, unfortunately that's a bit of a loaded question, but yeah, it's that's tough. They've obviously definitely have had their issues with TAPPS on more than one occasion now. So I don't know. My understanding is trying to get in the good graces. No idea of how. It's a bit speculative. Not sure if they really want to be part of TAPPS. TAPPS or SPC would, and I don't think the SPC route would work for them either. So to answer your question, Harry, I know, can they play an independent schedule? Kind of you're kind of almost like you're out of Bradenton, your IMGs of the world, stuff like that. They could, but for how long, I guess, is more of the question, right? Being that they're kind of situated here all by themselves on an island. That I think that's the tough one for them.
So moving on to number 8, Lee Volunteers, 10-4-3. They were the 5th ranked team, and I know probably what bumped them down was the loss to Reagan, which we kind of talked initially here for that here. So your thoughts on Lee? Was it just the Reagan loss that dropped them, or is there other factors?
Yeah, it was a tough loss for them. I mean, 4-0, and they, just watching them, they just really couldn't get anything going, but that's kudos to Reagan. They did the same game plan of what they did with Johnson. They just smothered their defense and not allowed them to really settle the ball and play from the back, work it up, and get in a rhythm. And I mean, Reagan, you can call basically did like a blitzkrieg. That's what you can call that on their defense. But also the goals too. If anybody wants to watch the video, we have it posted on our Facebook page. There were some miscues by the goalie and the defenders. Especially on the first goal, the goalie comes out. He had a miscommunication and ends up getting headed in. There's another one that the goalie should have had it, and it just trickled and it hits up on the side and goes in. So, and then the third goal was on a free kick. Another miscommunication, kind of bumped into each other, and the ball just squirts into the goal from the free kick. So, just a little miscues there. It was just not their night, but they did get a win, a tough win. They were actually down against Roosevelt last night, so they were to rally to come back and get a 2-1 win. So, I think Coach Rogers will get them. He'll get them ready for the playoffs. It's a little vulnerable, but I think if they can kind of get some fix some things on of its injuries, if they can fix those things, like I said, they are the defending state champs. Until you knock them out of the playoffs,
Right.
you're still the state champs. So you cannot sleep on them. They're still a very talented team.
And not taking anything away from Reagan, Rafa, but refresh my memory. I think. Was there a card in that game early that affected the Lee defense? Is that the case?
No, there was
or injury or something. No.
I
thought there was something that impacted the back line there.
They just
were talking about that
communication with the goalkeeper, and they weren't on the same page, and then a lot of what I noticed also. Like I said, Reagan just suffocated with them. They weren't allowing them to get settled. We've seen them playing, they really settled the ball, play kind of like the Barcelona tiki-taki, get it up the field, and they just were going to say, "No, we're not going to have this, and we're gonna make you play our style," and that's what Reagan did. And kudos to them, because for a team to do that.
Coach Davis said they had probably the reason for the miscommunication, what Coach Connor was talking about, is they had a center back that was out with a red card.
There we go.
Kudos. So maybe not during the game,
correct?
But previously to the previous game here, and that's why for that here.
Kudos to Reagan for sure. I mean, it was going to take a special team like what Reagan looks like they have to not. What was that streak at for Lee as far as district wins? That was
like
pretty
46 unbeaten game, 46 game.
2018, I think it was. Yeah.
So Dave Valentine's in. Lee starting QB Soil, picked up a red card against Churchill. in the game before. So that's probably why you're saying, hey, nothing during the game, but obviously having your starting center back could lead to some of that confusion here. And Coach Davis, I'll get to your comment here about Reagan and Harlan here when we get up to them in the rankings here. So I do see the comments here for that here. Number 7, I call it the Rafa bump. Probably well earned, don't get me wrong here, but Lavernia 12-2-3, number 14. I know you got to see them in person. I know on the pregame here, as you and I are talking here, you were very impressed, from how Lavernia looks here. And as you mentioned here, we'll hopefully have their coach on next week for that here to highlight the program as well. Because, like I said here, you were very impressed with the team.
Yeah, for being one of the youngest programs in San Antonio, they've really stepped it up, and I was impressed how they played, how they touched the ball, how they attacked, and kudos to their coach, getting them prepared. And this is a team to look out for. And I had a little discussion with their coach, and they're a very young team. They're mostly sophomores and freshmen. They only has 2 seniors on this team, so this team could be a threat for the next couple of years. And I did mention to him, say, hey, you have enough talent to maybe challenge the Bernie Greyhounds, and I would love to see that game between them and Lavernia. I think that'd be a great playoff game. Maybe even a regional final. They both teams maybe on opposite sides of the brackets, and that'd be a like I said, a great game. But kudos to them. Like I said, they're number 11. He's a sophomore, had a hat trick. He could have had 3 more goals. It just someone went over the bar thanks to the win. But I was impressed by him. Like I said, what the coach did tell me, they work really hard. They worked hard during the off season, and it's starting to pay off. And so keep an eye on the Bears, because I think they may do some damage in the 4A playoffs this year.
Just so Matt could have another drink of Big Ray, would you consider them a sleeper?
I was waiting for it.
Not a sleeper team, but no, their coach mentioned to me last year they got bounced early in the playoffs. They're making strides. This team is, like I said, this is one of the 4A programs. I know we focus a lot on Bernie, because they are the defending state champs, but this is a team that has come really a long way. And I've seen the hard work starting to pay off, and the way they're playing. I think they can. I would love to see that game, see what comes out of it. But I think it'll be a very exciting game to go watch.
Yeah.
So,
and the things I'm hearing,
But you mentioned that this year will probably be a good taste for them, but next year and probably as they build up the program. Next year is probably where you could really see them take that big jump, especially come playoff time, because it's one thing to do it during the season, but playoff soccer with the pressure is a different level here. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I would say this too is what Rafa kind of confirmed it last night, is the things I've been seeing and a lot of the things I've been hearing is they've kind of got all the right ingredients to really kind of this is kind of how regional powers are formed, right? How they kind of come to be, and they're definitely, you hit the nail on the head, Harry. They're kind of a bit ahead of schedule. So so good things to come, I think.
So Brian said, "Let's go Bears," and then Matt says, "Oh hi, oh wow, hey Brian," and then did want to point out Robert's saying, "Glad to see Reagan fans liking this program. Thank you from California." Thank you, Robert, for tuning in from California. That's awesome to see here. For that here. Moving on to number 6, Alamo Heights. Alamo Heights is, let me get back to my list, 13-2-1. They were 8th last 2 weeks ago when we did the power rankings here, so it's moved up a couple of slots. So your thoughts on the Mules?
Mules, they're on a winning streak, and like I said, they bounced back from that loss to Dripping Springs, and we'll see when they play them in the second round of the district round, or the second phase of the district play. See if they can catch them off on a good night and give them their first loss. So, but I think more than likely, like I said, Dripping Springs are going to win that district. Alamo Heights, it's real important getting that second seed, and that way, they can kind of redeem themselves. I know last year they had a really tough loss against, I think, Cedar Park, and I think that kind of really bit them. And I think that they're on the road to hopefully get to redemption and maybe face them again, and they can get a win and do some do some good things in the playoffs.
Number 5, if you are on social media for Texas high school soccer, Father and Lethal, or 6A, what's his handle here? 6A. 6A boys high school, 6A and club soccer here at SA_28. Smithson Valley went down to New Braunfels last night in a thrilling match here. So they are the 5th seed here, 16-2. So that was their second loss. They were the third rated team in your power rankings last week here. But I know when I checked, checking social media, Twitter here, that was a story that was going around.
The alarm lights are going off. Yeah, that was the shocker of the night. Smithson Valley going to New Braunfels and going back over their Spring Branch with a loss, and great win for New Braunfels. That keeps them in the playoff hunt. And Smithson Valley had won 16 games in a row since that first loss with Reagan, which I see 5-0. Yeah, 5-0. Yeah, for the first game. But I think Smithson Valley will bounce back from this. I think they'll learn from this. And sometimes maybe a loss like this will kind of wake you up a bit and get you refocused. And like I said, they'll still win the district title. But like I said, that they got to get ready for the playoffs with district with 28-6A, so they could see a Brandeis or a Johnson, or maybe even Lee. Who knows? And they can't. They're gonna have to be ready for one of those teams in that first round. But like I said, they'll bounce back, and like I said, they'll end up more like they're gonna win the district title.
So I'll have a question. I'm going to go to the number 4 team, which is Bernie, 14-2-1. There was the 6 team seated, or there were 6 last one here. Any thoughts on Ole dropping Smithson Valley only 1 slot and keep moving Bernie up to the 4th? Or what was the indicator to move Smithson Valley down 2 and Bernie up?
Just like I said, it was a game that I think Smithson Valley was heavily favored to win, and they had a big win against them the first time, and for them to drop this one was a surprise, and and I mean, like I mentioned, Braunfels needed. It's a big win for them because it keeps them in the playoff hunt, and especially trying to move up in the standings. And like I said, their first round playoffs going to be with District 28-6A. Pick your poison who you want to play in that first round. It could be Reagan, it can be Lee, or it can be Brandeis or Johnson. So it's gonna it's gonna be what's gonna matter who they match up better with. But like I said, that was it was like a surprising loss. That's why I knocked them down 2 slots.
All right, so I got to interrupt here for that here. RGV just released their kits here. So you got the plain blue one here, which is their hair. But this white kit, I gotta admit, it looks nice.
Kind of looks like my colors, the blue and the orange here.
So evidently they said here, RGV is the only club in the USL Championship to wear this exclusive pattern, look, and color combination here. I will say this in speaking with Edson on the SAFC, switching to Puma, is year 2 SAFC may have better options than what they had for that here. But sorry, since we opened the show with the SAFC Dart kit here, I got to give it to RGV coming out here that they're their home kits, look kind of nice as well. I'm assuming that's their home kit.
They didn't show the back though. They didn't show the back, Harry. We don't know if we can read the last name though. Just saying.
Hey, they're playing for the Smurfs or something, but the white one looked nice. I like the pattern on the white one.
Yeah, the white one with the pattern here, and as James says, I like both jerseys. That'll be the only nice things that we say about RGV on this program here, outside that they did sign Ollie Wright today here. So it's great to see him continuing to play in USL Championship.
And I did see a Dave here with a 2-22 brought some wild results. Yep, there were some wild results last night.
Oh yeah, that was Clark's first pointer, and yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was a shocker there. They hadn't won. I don't think they've won a game in district play in all season. That was
they hadn't. That was their first point earned. Yeah, they were. Clark was having a rough season. We'll just leave it at that here.
Hopefully they'll bounce back for next year.
And then Dave also mentioned Smithson Valley versus Clemens on Friday night for first place, which one of the people that I sit next to, his son was a starting goalkeeper for Clemens, and I went to a Smithson Valley Clemens game, and that is a very underrated rivalry on the soccer pitch that I don't think a lot of people realize. On the northeast side here, those two teams do not like each other, and the two schools do not like it. And I know they don't get the same pub as some of the other schools, on the rivalries, but that is one. If you have the opportunity to go catch it, it won't disappoint.
And Clemens, like I said, they maybe take a page from what Raffles did and try to steal one from Smithson Valley and get into first place.
So number 3, moving up one, Reagan at 11-2-2. So your thoughts on the Rattlers?
What can you say about Reagan? They've just turned it up to another level. I mean, they've 2 quality wins over Johnson and Lee and Andy Lee's unbeaten streak in district play. So if they can keep up the same intensity, like I said, they're going to be favored. I know they have 2 tough matchups. They still have Johnson. They still have Brandeis. They'll have that rivalry game with Churchill. Can't sleep on them too. Like I said, that's a rivalry game. And, when you're playing rivalry games, you're gonna bring it. So, but like I said, I think Reagan, out of that win versus Lee, I think now they have pretty much control of that district, and I think getting that 1 seed is really important for them. And just look out for them. I think they match up well with some of those Austin teams, and we could see them going to the regional tournament. They're in their backyard.
Number 2, and we've come a long way. Southwest at 14-1-1. Number 2 last time, but number 2 solidly all season for that here. Even with a coaching change, it seems like they've continued to handle their business. And I think I caught their last score here, and it wasn't a pretty score along those lines. For who they played here, but your thoughts on Southwest, and I think you mentioned in the last one here, for them, it's about the playoffs. It's, their district, they should handle fairly easy. It's for them, it's how deep can they go?
Yeah, they're putting up football scores. I mean touchdowns. What can you say about Southwest? They haven't missed a beat, but they do have a matchup coming up, which I'll save in a bit. It's a non-district game that I'm looking forward to, and which that involves with the next team. But I think I'll call that maybe the city championship game per se for the Power 15. But Southwest, like I said, they're getting ready for they're on the right track, getting ready for the playoffs. I'm sure they're happy about the good news I gave today with that player from Valley View leaving the team for other options, and I don't know if that option is going to be RGV with RGV FC
or other, yeah,
or other. But if they match up again, I'm gonna go with Southwest on them. I think they can take care of business in that playoff game, and maybe this could be the breakthrough season to get into, like I said, not only to the regional tournament, but get to the state tournament. But another showdown I like to see them play, hopefully, is maybe a Dripping Springs versus Southwest regional final.
So the number one is Harlan, 15-2. They've been your number one team majority of the year. Coach Davis, I think this is something, I know you mentioned possibly a connection between number two and number one. But I think a lot of people are also looking at Reagan, who Coach Davis says, and I know you've mentioned this, are the real deal this year. Hope to see them versus Harlan later in the playoffs, as that'll be like watching the championship game itself. Two of the best high school programs I've got to see this year, and the third team was, of course, Dripping Springs, which you're also very high on as well.
Yeah, Harlan, like I said, they've dominated 29-6A, and they're going to continue. I know they got a couple, like I said, a tough test with O'Connor coming up, but I think they're going to take care of business going to get in the district play, and they should have no problem getting to the first rounds. And, depending who they match up, also the Valley, because I was looking the Valley, see how they do with Los Fresnos and also Brownsville Hannah. They might be a little bump in the road, and but I do have kind of little news. Did see on the looking at the schedules coming up in March. I do see a March 11th game between Harlan and Southwest. So Harlan will be at Southwest on that date at I think 7 p.m. So we're gonna have our little, I guess, our Power 15 city championship game. They're between the top two teams in the city. So we're probably gonna be there. probably has that game, and so I'm looking forward to see how these two match up. And it's a good test for you want to get a good test right before the playoffs, and when more with two state caliber teams want to get to each other, regardless of the classification. They're very good teams, and I think even Southwest would do well in 6A too. I think they have the talent to do well.
And then Coach Davis mentioned Burning Champion will play Dripping Springs this Friday, and he'll get to watch Dripping Springs in person because they're a fun watch. And Ruff is a huge Dripping Springs fan because they gave him some freebies.
Hey, you're missing 50% of the puzzle there, buddy. Yeah, hey, shout out to Drip as well. I know Rafa got to do it on here, but yeah, they took care of us with some swag with the beanie, and to Jeanette Spain, they have a phenomenal booster club. Phenomenal booster club, and we went out one day covering a game, and they had a surprise for both Rafa and I. So that's some awesome stuff. We appreciate that.
And then of course, Dave, and you mentioned about these last minute schedules, and I know you sent me a text saying Southwest was kind of looking for a team, which they found. But last year Harlan played Reagan, and Reagan won, and the Harlan coach said it was their wake-up call to make their deep playoff run here. So,
and sometimes losing like a game like a warm-up game will get your team refocused and knowing that, hey, anybody can beat you. So I think that did well for Harlan, and like I said, this is going to be a good test for both teams, between the Southwest and Harlan, and whoever wins, it's just going to get them ready for what they're going to see probably in third or fourth round, fifth round play and beyond.
Do you think that'll also happen with Smithson Valley? With them, having that unexpected loss against New Braunfels, do you think that will, kind of, shake them off? Because I think when I was looking at their record, they had quite a bit of a winning streak heading into that.
Yeah, they won 16 in a row. I think ever since
16, yeah,
that big loss that they had with Reagan. Like I said, Reagan took them to the woodshed. Like I said, I was there at that game, but they bounced back, and and they had that winning streak, but that little shocking loss against the Braunfels. Hopefully that'll wake them up. But like I said, they still got another big test with Clemens, and like you mentioned, they don't like each other. And when you play your rival teams, you're gonna pick up your game. So it's gonna be a great game Friday. So you have a chance to head out to that game.
So, as we kind of head out, because we're on about an hour and a half, and I was like, well, hey, this will be a short show because we're not doing the TAPPS playoffs, and of course we've always seem to magically hit that 90.
Sorry to crash the party. Sorry.
No, you're fine. One thing to kind of keep a lookout for, especially for the UIL. Last year we did it, and I think it was a lot of success. The bracketology show. Once the UIL brackets go out, we'll go through the brackets here. I'm going to try to see if we can get somebody, from the other regions to possibly come on to kind of, talk about, region 1, region 2, possibly even somebody down, in the valley if they have here. So last year I think it was a 3-hour show that we did for that here. So it may be something.
Yeah, but don't sleep on us, Harry. I think we can do 4 hours this year. I think we can do 4.
If we get more voices and along those lines. Although I have improved the bracket here, I think I found a bracket that, instead of having to hear me type, the results in, I can just click a radial button and it will continue to go through. I'll just have to get those set up, with the teams when the brackets come out. So that'll be something to keep a lookout for. I'm wondering if we, depending on when the brackets come out, maybe a Sunday afternoon, non-work day along those lines. That way, I think we ended up way late that night for that here, which is fine. But, I think if we can start a little bit earlier, might make the families a little bit happier. So, along those lines here. But Coach, it was awesome, to have you back on again here. If you want to plug what's coming up on the 50/50 podcast, I know you had your show. I want to say it was last night that I caught it here for that here. So if you want to kind of promote what you did last night or promote what's coming up.
Yeah, thank you guys. I again, it's been a minute. I don't know when was the last time I was on. It's been a minute. I know that, but awesome to be with you guys. It always goes by a lot faster. I know when we get together, so I'm appreciative of that. But yeah. You can find us on we're on Twitter at 50_50pod. You can also find us our episodes on YouTube as well, on at the 50_50 podcast, on Instagram as well at the 50_50 podcast. But just had an episode last night with the new head women's soccer coach of TLU, Coach Kerwin Johnson. Yeah, great episode, great professional, great to see him. He's a fellow UIW guy, so I had to give, it was great to get him on as well. And yeah, I mean, we've had a great run of guests lately, good level quality coaches. Also recently had Lance Key on, had Coach Marcus Wood, who's now the new head women's soccer coach at DBU at Dallas Baptist, had Randy Waldrum on before that. Who's the head women's soccer coach at Pitt and the manager for the Nigerian women's national team. So some excited about some that are in the works, including got a couple of coaches from major D1 Power 5 programs in the state of Texas that are slated to be joining us in the coming weeks. So give us a listen. We appreciate it. I know one question I've been getting a lot is the audio portion of the podcast. We are actually in the middle of migrating that because we're no longer part of the A Day in the Life TV network. So we are migrating all of the audio stuff going forward. So that will be coming. In the next couple of weeks.
Rafa, your final thoughts? Any Champions League excitement for you that's coming up or that you've seen here recently?
Madrid wins next in a few weeks, so hopefully you can get that win. But I did see an exciting game with that Man U and Atletico.
One draw, yeah.
So that was pretty good. Also with a Benfica too, with Ajax with the Reggae Boy jerseys. So
those were nice.
I actually have one of those. So it's like one of those.
I was about to say, don't you have one? Yeah.
I have one. And like I said, I just got a Benfica jersey. I think I wore that one on the last show. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to for that, and also it's also an announce soon, hopefully over the weekend, where our next live stream, and we'll be posting that pretty soon. If there's anyone want to take a guess, guess on Twitter where we're heading to, but I just want to appreciate like Somerset for having us there, and also Lavernia fans too, especially Lavernia's coach. I think he just sent us a message. He's wanting to come on the show. We're happy to have him, like to pick his brain and see, learn about a program that we don't normally hear about, and up and comer. Just like when we went to me and Harry went to Hondo, and so it's always great to learn about new teams around the area. Not so first. It's saying mostly all like this. Sometimes the bigger schools do get the coverage, but you got to show some love for the little small schools. And then we are going to have some live streams. I do have a kind of a tentative schedule, so be on the lookout for that. Because like I said, look out for the little posters. And if you see us on there, see me or meet Coach Cano there at the games, come say hi, and we like free. If you have any scarves or anything like that for your teams, hey, we're those two. I said I don't get one for Harry, but like I said, I look forward, like I said, see more great. I know there's some great games coming up. This is kind of like the final stretch. We're gonna see who's a contender, who's a pretender, and I just can't wait for the bracketology. Like I said, we're being one of the only ones that does live bracketology for high school soccer here in Texas is a great thing. So that's what makes us number one here for this coverage, so we're looking forward for that.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a collection of people that do it. I know last year it was Coach Cano, Rafa, and I that kind of put it together, but I think just the coverage that you're seeing around, not only just here in the San Antonio area, but over in Houston with Lethal, and I know we give Lethal some grief back and forth on some of his posts. But you're starting to see a lot more coverage for high school soccer, and that's the main thing why we do this. Going back to when Scott and I started, SA Soccer Roundtable, it was to try to provide a voice, to provide an outlet for that here, just because there really wasn't anything at that time, 4 years ago. So I'm excited to see other people that have jumped in. The communication. High schools is Rafa's baby. There's this. I'm more lower league soccer. Rafa's through there, and then of course Royce is, I guess, our SAFC analytics guru. Which him and John. If you didn't check that out with USL Tactics, that was a fun show.
With Coach Cano, I mean, appreciate with all he's done with, especially with the college recruiting. Gives us an insight as far as especially for the kids here in our area and also in the state. How. What these college coaches are looking for as far as recruits and what needs to be done and so forth. So gotta give props to Coach Connor for that. Showing that other side of the high school soccer and that, and it's much appreciated. And I'm sure a lot of the kids are learning more about how to get into play that next level.
Yeah, appreciate it. I got some breaking info here, Harry.
Oh, go ahead.
That Harlan Southwest match that you guys were referencing. That has been canceled.
Oh,
yeah, that has been canceled. So,
way to go, Rafa.
Yeah, that just came down.
There goes the unofficial city championship, but I guess not.
And Coach Davis, I believe we've had you, and I know we've had Rick on from Surf Soccer Club, and we had a gentleman on from SA City, but he's actually moved on to another club here. But yeah, once a year we do try to talk club soccer. We try to stay out of all the politics of it, for that here. But it's something that me and Rafa talk quite a bit offline here. It is about the club soccer scene, and especially how it impacts the teams. For that here, you can see some of the stronger teams that have affiliations, with Surf, with Classic Elites, with SA City, with what was it, BVB, club. I know your Rafa was part of Mission City, down on the south side here. James Hope with what is it?
USLA.
USLA. That he does. That does a lot for. For the city of San Antonio as well here. So without the club soccer guys, that help support the high schools and vice versa. That's how we got to get better than Austin. And, Rafa says Austin has the advantage on us a little bit here. So
On the girls' side, I don't say about the boys' side, but
on the girls' side here for that here. So, but just to kind of, final thoughts for me here. Just, I know you mentioned next Wednesday, we're hopefully going to have the coach of Lavernia on the 6th. We are going to have Oklahoma City Energy goalkeeper legend Cody Lorendry on, Mr. Manbun, to talk about his career path from playing in Toyota Field. Yes, we'll bring up the old wounds of the Oklahoma City beating San Antonio in the playoffs on PKs, but more important, his role transitioning from player to where now he's an agent, and what it's like for that, for aspiring players, because a lot of people will go directly into coaching along those lines. But I'm very interested to hear his path to go into the agent side here, because that's a different path that you don't normally hear about these days here. So those will be coming up. Some of the guests that we have. We may not have a SAFC show on Sunday because I unfortunately will be up in Leander or Austin playing Lone Star. AJ will be playing Lone Star up there, so I will not be able to attend it. I know Rafa's going to be out of town. Royce has his mom's birthday, and you can't miss mom's birthday. No. So unfortunately, none of us three will be able to catch the game. So it's going to be hard to kind of talk about it for that here. So we may not have a show on Sunday for that here. So the next SAFC heavy show will probably be on the 6th here. But do you want to thank everybody from tuning in, from Matt, Rob, Brian, Alex, Dave. Let me just make sure I don't miss anybody on here. Brian, Robert out in California. Thank you, and Lori, for all of your comments. Like I said, it's much appreciated, for the interactions. And like I said here, what's life without goals? We're out.